Let's move on, guys, to our last Big Three game. That was the game in Como this morning. Alabama taking on Missouri, and Alabama gets out of there with a 27-24 victory over the Tigers. Ty Simpson was great in the first half. They survived a disastrous start to the second half, guys. I really was worried that was going to cause them to spiral. Quick turnover, touchdown by Missouri, made that a completely different ball game. But Alabama weathers the storm. They get a late interception to seal the deal when Missouri was driving to try to tie it with a field goal or win it with a touchdown if they could get that far. But it was a good, gutsy win that I'm coming away with being very impressed by both of these teams. Alabama, like we were talking about with Texas, like we were talking about with Indiana even, looked very physical up front. They were confusing Beau Pribula left and right and making life really miserable. They held Ahmad Hardy under 60 yards on the ground, which has looked impossible for everybody to do up at this point. And yeah, took care of business on the road, which is not something that we can say for most Kalen DeBoer outings on the road at Alabama thus far. And then on the other side for Mizzou, I'm walking away very impressed with them as well. They held their own, had a chance to tie or take the lead late against Alabama. I think this is going to be another team that's going to be a really tough out in the SEC.
Yeah, for me, these are two of the better teams in the SEC. And really, it could have gone either way. I mean, we saw how close it got. It was so back and forth. I mean, Alabama came out extremely hot, but then fizzled because Missouri found out how to stop them. They just figured out what the recipe was to get after them and stop them on the offensive side. And then, you kind of flip it around. Missouri comes crawling right back into this game. We have an actual ball game. For me, the key here was what happens at the end of the game when, you look at, there's about 8 minutes left. Jam Miller goes out. He gets injured. It's, should be, for all intents and purposes, devastating to Alabama's offense, right? Your lead back is out. You're going to have to rely way more on the pass, and Missouri should know that, so they should be able to stop that. It did not matter. The clutch throws that Ty Simpson made down the stretch, that fourth down just dime that he dropped, and then eventually on fourth down to, score, that's a big deal. And to me, that was one of those moments where I just had to kind of shake my head and go, well, game recognized game. Like, that was amazing. There's nothing you can do about that. I think the commentator even said on that fourth and long, like that kind of long bomb that he hit, if you paused everything and walked him the ball, you couldn't have put it in a better spot. And it's absolutely true. The Ty Simpson's going to be a problem down the stretch. He's an extremely good quarterback. For me, a lot of the reason Missouri got back into this was Bama kind of taking their foot off the gas and playing a little bit of prevent there to let them come down and score. But again, that's part of prevent defense, is it prevents you from winning. So, look, I think in a little bit of a way, Alabama controlled that game towards the end. But these are two extremely good football teams who you didn't see any quit out of Missouri. It would have been really easy to quit going down 10 late. Instead, they fight back. They get right back in that game. I think that this is both of these teams are someone that nobody wants to see down the stretch because these are both extremely good teams. They might not both make the playoff, but these are two teams that could make the playoff and cause problems when they get there.
Yeah, this felt like a statement for Alabama's defense. The offense got what they needed to get done. And you guys talked about Ty Simpson just continues to be very reliable, does not put up gaudy stats, but boy, when he had to be a winner, he answered the bell. Defensively, I think keeping the run game in check for Missouri was so impressive. And that was one of the big asterisks that a lot of people that were taking Alabama to win and cover were saying is, hey, Missouri's put up all these rushing yards and Ahmad Hardy has an absurd total thus far into the season, but it's all against the bottom half of the country in run defense. They haven't played anybody real. And I feel like even though Alabama gave up, I think it was 168, something like that through the ground, it never felt like Missouri was dictating anything. It kind of felt like Missouri got what they were allowed to get and no more, because when it came to needing to pick up a big first down, needing to continue a drive, needing to score, Alabama just threw up the iron gate and said, not today. And that was one thing that I needed to see. That was one thing that I was worried about when it came to the outright winner of this. I wasn't on the preview show. I did pick Missouri to win this game. I did get the cover, thankfully. But that was the biggest concern that I had, was if Beau Pribula finds a way to look at the film from last week and say, okay, this is what Diego Pavia and Vanderbilt was not able to do. Here's how I can exploit that. Then I felt like Missouri at home in a weird spot for Alabama might be able to just pull out a victory outright. They were not able to do that. In fact, it felt like a lot of the Missouri game plan was kind of carbon copy of what Vander tried last week. And Alabama said, well, we've seen this before, and we stopped it, so we're going to do it again. I was disappointed with the offense from Missouri, and I have questions about Beau Pribula's ability to read good coverage. That's one thing that we've never doubted with this Alabama team is their secondary is elite. Boy, they had Beau all kinds of confused, and a couple of really bad throws and bad interceptions ended up sinking that comeback attempt.
Are you guys putting I think the two concerns that we had about Alabama, especially after Florida State, were running quarterbacks and running offenses and going on the road. Are we putting both of those to bed now? That they've beaten running quarterbacks back-to-back weeks in Diego Pavia and Beau Pribula, and now they've gone on the road to a top 15-esque opponent in Missouri and taken care of business. Yeah, it was a close final score, but like you said, Mitch, they were kind of in control for most of it.
I think so. I think Florida State has felt like a landmine for this entire season. I mean, they just lost to Pitt. Pitt kind of exposed them. We'll talk about them when we get to the ACC notes. But it felt like the perfect storm looking back on that game. Thomas Castellanos talks a big game, kind of shows some stuff we hadn't seen from him at Boston College in a little bit. Certainly that was the reason why he got benched up there by Bill O'Brien, was that we weren't seeing that kind of consistency and that sort of eye for the big play. So it felt like Alabama got caught out a little bit. But then against Vanderbilt, Diego Pavia, and an offense that is just notoriously difficult to stop, they were able to keep him wrangled up. Same with Pribula. There was no room for him to run and create. Ahmad Hardy's bottled up. That running back room just felt stifled all game long. It does feel like Alabama schematically has figured out how to keep everything in a funnel and then make the tackles, kind of basically turn everything into an Oklahoma drill where they're coming downhill at you.
Yeah, for me, with the Florida State thing, I'd just write it off at this point. It's almost like it didn't happen. I would rather just, for Alabama's sake, I'd rather just say, hey, it just happened. That got your attention, and it set you off on this whole season that you're having now, right? It pissed you off enough that your team got together and found out how to play football again. So that's another team that when we talk about them later, I don't even know what to think about Florida State at this point. So, it's exciting to see what this Bama team is doing. This is a team, I definitely don't want to see them down the stretch because of how good they play on both sides of the football. They're so physical. They're so talented. At this point, they know exactly what they want to do and how they want to win games. One thing is going to be the Jam Miller injury. That's going to be kind of my big thing for Bama going forward is, does Jam come back? Can they figure out a running back in relief? If he doesn't, how can they kind of keep their offense balanced in the short term? I'll take it, right? I'll take what it is. You got your win. Now get out of there. Try to get healthy. We'll see what happens with Bama the rest of the way. But this is a lethal team, if you ask me.
Boy, the SEC is going to be so fun to follow down the stretch. It's just going to be a juggernaut each and every week for each of these teams to just get in the cage and fight it out. And I'm really excited to watch the back half of this schedule and see who's legit and who's not.